Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Sean's Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you tuning in today. To those of you who have subscribed recently, thank you. I really appreciate everybody's support, everybody tuning in, the comments, the sharing, all of that. So, thank you all so very, very much. Today, we're going to be talking about Ouija from 2014. Um, I saw this movie in theaters when it first came out. It's hard for me to believe this movie is 12 years old, but I saw it in theaters when it first came out and enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. And then I just kind of forgot about it after that. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about this movie. Every once in a while, I might see it pop up on some streaming service or something, and I'm like, yeah, I think I like that, but just never really have gone back to it. But now, with this random thing that I do, this is the one that's popped up. So we're going to talk Ouija today from 2014. Quick tagline for the film: keep telling yourself it's just a game. Uh, and well, I'll come back to that. Brief synopsis for the movie: a group of friends must confront their most. Let me start all over. A group of friends must confront their most terrifying fears when they awaken the dark powers of an ancient spirit board. Film was released October 24th of 2014. Directed by Styles White, story by Styles White, screenplay by Styles White and Juliet Snowden. A runtime of 89 minutes, a budget of somewhere between $5 and $8 million, box office of 103.6 million. So did incredibly well at the box office. I did not realize this movie was such a hit, especially considering that I really, like I said, don't hear anybody talk about this movie. But briefly cast for the film: Olivia Cook, Darren Kagasoff, maybe, not sure, Douglas Smith, Bianca Santos, and Lynn Shay. So let's stop for a moment and talk cast and characters. I think the cast is solid. I like Olivia Cook. I know I've seen her in multiple things. I think the first time she ever like really got my attention as far as standing out was in the Bates Motel TV series. I thought she was really good in that. Um, but yeah, she's good in this movie. I think she does a good job. The rest of the cast is fine as well. Again, nothing here that I feel like I know I say this a lot, but no huge standouts. Nothing here that just blew my mind, but still solid performances. And as far as the characters, they all make some bad decisions. But for the most part, they're all likable. I don't think anybody comes across as, not being a likable character. They're all fine. Um, yeah, I mean that's just kind of where I'm at on this one as far as that. Everybody's fine. Nothing a huge standout, but it's fine. As far as cinematography, story, score, that kind of thing, this is one of those where I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the score. I just watched this movie a couple of days ago to kind of take some notes and get ready for this recording, and I don't remember anything about the score at all. I'm sure it's okay, but nothing obviously stood out to me on the score on this one. Um, Cinematography, the film looks good. It's got definitely some creepy moments, and we'll get into some things as far as production here in a few moments. That I'm glad they went this route with this movie instead of what they were originally intending, because from some of the things I read and some of the things we'll talk about here in a few minutes, I have no idea what the original plan with this movie was. It sounds like it would have been a shit show to me, just to be completely honest with you. So I'm glad that they cut things back and decided to do what they actually did here. Uh, yeah, the it looks good. Everything's shot good. There are some creepy moments. It's got some eerie moments, I guess you might could say. So and yeah, everything looks pretty good. Special effects are fine. Yeah, I mean it's all good. Nothing mind blowing, but it's good. It does what it needs to do, and I think the story is pretty cool. A lot of times these kind of stories are not my thing, but this is not bad, especially for this type of film. I think so. But one of the things, Ouija boards. I'm so curious. Has anybody that watches this video ever actually played with a Ouija board? I never have. If you know my background, I grew up in a very, I grew up in a religious home. I myself was very religious for a long time until things happened and changed my mindset and viewpoint on a lot of things. But even since coming out of that, I've still something about Ouija boards. I'm just like, no, I'm not fucking around with that. I'm not going to mess with one of those. So, um, but this concept, this story is interesting. So I'm just curious, is anybody, any of my listeners, followers, whatever, have you ever played with a Ouija board? Because I kind of want to know your thoughts and if anything happened. So yeah, tell me a story. So, all right, let's get into those production notes that I was talking about. Development for this film began way back in 2008 with Universal Pictures behind it. But things just weren't really working out the way they wanted them to. By 2012, an entirely new script had been written. And this new script, this is what I was talking about. I have no idea what the original intention for this movie was, because the original script was described as, or the script, I'm sorry, in 2012 was described as a 4-quadrant supernatural adventure, similar to The Mummy or Indiana Jones. Watching this movie now and knowing what it is, where just how it started blows my mind, because in watching this, I don't see anything that reminds me of certainly Indiana Jones. The Mummy, I guess maybe I could see a couple of things here and there, but a 4-quadrant supernatural adventure, I'm like, what? Because this movie really is pretty simple, and not that that's a bad thing, but this movie is fairly simple. So what was it originally? It just blows my mind to think of what the original idea for this movie was. And it's one of those that for some reason I can just, we'll get into here in a minute what the budget would have been to produce what they were trying to do back at this point. I can see it being something that was just insanely crazy and all over the place and being a huge bomb. That's just the way I look at it when I see what they were, I read what they were looking to do, and I read this budget that I'll get into here in a minute, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. What was in this movie? Like, I'm just so curious. I think I'm glad I didn't see it, or they didn't do it, because I think this works, what they did do, but I don't know. It's just very interesting to me. So, like I said, that's the way it was described. But all of the pitches that kept getting sent to the studio, they just kept passing on. More rewrites were done, and eventually Universal Studios just backed out completely due to what was going to be an incredibly high budget. Paramount Pictures then got involved, and another rewrite was done to bring down what would have been a $125 million budget. So this film that we got, that I just watched, the budget was somewhere between $5 and $8 million. What were they possibly thinking that this would have been a $125 million movie? Again, just blows my mind trying to come up with what the original concept was. And I started to research and try to get more information on it, because I'm like, what were they doing? But I couldn't find anything. So again, that just knowing that that's what they were originally considering, and this is what we got, I'm just like, what? It just doesn't seem real. But yeah. And excuse me, my dog has decided she's going to chime in here as well. She's also confused by this outrageous possibility. But yeah, so Paramount got involved. They brought down what this big high budget thing. They tried to make the film much more simpler, much more atmospheric, and more scary instead of an adventure type film. And I'm glad they did that. So finally, in 2012, the final screenplay was written, and everything got all set and put into motion. So that's really what I've got for production notes. I don't know, maybe other people don't find that interesting, but I'm just like, what in the hell were we looking at here for this film? All right, let's get into the plot and start walking through this one. If you haven't seen it yet, I say check it out. It's definitely worth a watch, but I'm going to go ahead and get into it and start spoiling some things now. So let's walk through the plot of Ouija. We open the film up with 2 little girls playing with the Ouija board. And then we cut to present day, and Debbie, one of those 2 little girls, seems very freaked out, and she throws the Ouija board into the fireplace. Immediately after doing so, she gets a call from her best friend, Lane, who was the other girl from the opening shot there. Lane's outside her house. Apparently, they have plans to go to a basketball game or something, but as they get together and they talk a little bit, it's obvious that Debbie's pretty freaked out. They talk about the Ouija board a little bit. Debbie decides she doesn't want to go, so Lane ends up leaving. Then back inside the house, we see Debbie kind of hanging out. We see a door open by itself. The stove comes on by itself. And this Ouija board that she threw in the fireplace, when she goes back to her room, it's just laying there on her bed. And then just within a couple of seconds, Debbie ends up becoming possessed, and she goes and hangs herself. Um, I think this is a pretty effective opening. I like this opening scene. I remember liking it. I had forgot about it initially, but when I watched this the other day, I remember seeing it in the theaters and liking it, liking the way it was done. Um, the scene where she goes in and sees the Ouija board on her bed after she's thrown it in the fireplace, and then, like I said, it's just a couple of seconds, and then her eyes kind of turn grayish before she goes and hangs herself. I think it looks good. The effects are good here, and I think it's pretty eerie, pretty creepy. It's an effective opening scene. I like it. From there, we cut to, I guess it's like the next day. Lainey is out with some of her friends. There's Isabel, her boyfriend, Lainey's boyfriend. I keep saying Lainey. I think they just say it's Lane. Her boyfriend Trevor. They're all hanging out, and Lane gets the phone call finding out that Debbie is, has passed away. We then cut to the wake, where again Lane and her boyfriend Trevor are there. Their friend Isabel is there. Lane's sister Sarah is there. Debbie's boyfriend Pete arrives, and we just kind of get what's supposed to be, seeing what this group is going through. We see Lane talking with Debbie's mom a little bit. Just kind of getting a brief introduction to some of these characters, and supposed to see what they're dealing with here and going through with the loss of their friend, and wondering, why would she commit suicide? Everybody thought she was pretty happy, and that kind of thing. So the group then, Lane, Trevor, Sarah, Isabel, Pete, they all decide that they want to use this Ouija board, because at Debbie's house, Lane and Trevor end up finding the Ouija board. And so they decide to meet back at Debbie's. Debbie's parents are going out of town for a little bit, and I guess Lane's kind of house sitting for them, or going to keep an eye on the house for them. Kind of odd to me when your best friend just committed suicide there, that you're going to keep an eye on this house. I think I would kind of want to avoid it. But anyway, they decide, though, to meet back at Debbie's and use this board to try to communicate with her. So we get this kind of, seance type thing going on here. They do make some kind of contact, they feel like. To start with, they all think maybe one of the other ones is doing it, but they kind of, whatever they're talking to sends them this message on the board that says, "Hi, friend," and answers a few questions. So they think they're communicating with Debbie. They do then start to hear some noises throughout the house. The lights go out. As they're all kind of looking around a little bit, Pete sees something in this big mirror, and as he approaches it, some unseen force seems to grab him and slam his face and hand into the mirror. The group kind of freaks out a little bit, and everyone leaves, and Lainey takes the board home. Here again, I think it's effective. Questionable decisions, like I said, from these characters. This is not something I would do, but again, if you did what I would do, then this movie probably wouldn't last but 15-20 minutes. So I think the little, for lack of a better term, the seance scene that we get, that they do here where they're trying to communicate, it works. The lights going out, the "hi friend" message. I mean, yeah, you're curious what's going on, but the scene where Pete he's standing in front of this mirror, and he gets basically pulled into the mirror, where his face and hand get smashed in the mirror. It's fine. It's good. It's a little creepy. So I'm on board still and enjoying this so far. And another thing I'll say, I mentioned the runtime for this film was not very long. The movie's only, it's a little less than an hour and a half long. But I do think it's paced really well. It's a shorter movie, which I think is perfect for this type of film. But I also think it just, it flies by. It goes by so quickly. And again, I know it's a short runtime, but it even seems shorter than it is to me. When I watched this the other night, I felt like I'd only been watching the movie for about an hour, and it was over. So, I think the pacing is really good. It flies by very quickly and doesn't linger too much into any one particular thing or shot or drag in any way. So I appreciate that. Lainey takes the sport home after everybody leaves, and then the friends begin to see this "hi friend" message popping up in odd places. Like Isabel sees it on her car. Pete sees it scratched into his desk. There's a scene where Lane and her sister Sarah are kind of having a weird moment at their house where they feel like something's in the house. Like they hear these weird noises, doors open by itself. They run into the bedroom and something bangs on the door. And then they see "hi friend" typed on their computer screen. So they feel like that whatever they did worked, and that Debbie is still trying to contact all of them. It's just gotten a little creepy. So they decide to have another session with this Ouija board. This time chairs move around. And then when they're talking to this spirit, Pete asks a couple of questions and he realizes that this is not Debbie. And I think this is a really cool moment in the film. This is a pretty creepy moment where he's asking these questions and, they're getting their answers on the board. And then he kind of says to everybody else, this isn't Debbie. So I really like that scene. I thought that worked really well and was done well. They then find out that this spirit goes by just DZ. Lainey picks up and I always forget, I think I made a note somewhere here of what this piece, the piece that they use, that moves around. There's an actual term for it. I'm going to try to find it real quick. I'm so sorry. I should have been better prepared. I'm looking, plank, I guess is what it's called. Debbie picks up this plank and kind of looks through the little glass part on it. And she sees this little girl with her mouth sewn shut. And then suddenly, DZ gives them a message on the board that says to run, that mother is coming. And then when Lainey looks again, she sees this older woman come running at them, and things just go flying around the house all of a sudden. So again, pretty creepy scene, pretty effective scene. I like the way this is done. I think it looks good, serves its purpose. You can get a jump scare out of it, I guess you would say, but it's creepy. It works. Lainey then finds out through watching some, I guess Debbie recorded some of this stuff, and so Lane watches it and finds out that Debbie played this game alone. And then we cut to a scene next where Isabel is home. She's home by herself. She's in her bathroom, and she's kind of looks like maybe getting ready to take a bath. But suddenly she has a moment where she looks in the mirror, and her mouth appears to be sewn shut, similar to the little girl that Lane saw. And then very quickly, she too gets the grayish eyes and is possessed and is killed. She's like elevates a little bit, and then she just drops down, and her face smashes onto the sink, and she gets killed. I think this is a great scene as well. This is a good kill. Again, happens very quickly, but it looks good. It looks violent. I like this scene. I thought this worked for me. Lane and Pete then go to search Debbie's house. They find in the attic a box of old photos that belong to the previous family that lived there. And while in the attic, we get another little bit of a scare as Lane sees his presence in the attic. As they begin to research this previous family, they learn that there was a little girl named Doris Zander, so that's where the DZ comes from, who went missing, and that she had a sister named Paulina, that Paulina is currently in a psychiatric hospital, and so Lane goes to visit her, and she finds out from Paulina that Paulina and Doris's mom was a medium, I think is what she said. She contacted spirits, did a lot of things, and they used Doris as a vessel, and these spirits would speak through Doris. And so eventually their mother ended up sewing Doris's mouth shut to try to keep this from continuing to happen. The mom kind of went insane, and eventually Doris was killed. Paulina says that she was able to then put a stop to what their mother was doing, but because of that, she ended up in this psych ward. And she also tells Lane about a secret room where she needs to go, and she needs to find Doris's body and cut the stitches from the mouth to put a stop to the what's happening here, and then hope that Doris can stop the mother. The mother is evil. So that's kind of where we're at with what's happening. And this is where Lynn Shay appears in the film. She's playing the character of Paulina. Lynn Shay's great. I mean, she's always good on screen. This is kind of where we're getting our backstory. This is where we're getting everything that's supposed to be happening, what's causing all of this. It's fine. I think it's, like I said, I kind of like this story, and I think it's interesting here. It's a little weird, but it works for me as well. So I'm good with what we're getting here. At least now we know what's going on. We know we think we know what's happening here with this spirit and what's going on, and that this mom is responsible for this. And again, back when they had their one Ouija session, the little girl did spell out the message on the Ouija board to run because mother is coming. So we're kind of, we think we know what's happening now and what they need to do to stop it. So we get back to the house. They're looking in Debbie's basement. We see a shadow kind of attack Trevor for a moment. They do find the room. They do find the corpse where Doris's body is. We also see Sarah get attacked by this unseen force for a moment. Lainey is able to cut the stitches from that's got the corpse's mouth sewed shut. The mother does try to show up and attack, but once getting the stitches cut, then Doris's corpse kind of comes to and is able to stop her, and then everyone leaves and goes home. Describing this as I'm listening to myself explain what's going on here sounds crazy. It sounds really odd. It is kind of odd. Not that this is a bad scene. I mean, it's fine. I think this may be, though, the weakest scene in the movie, because to me here, it's just like, oh, okay, now we're kind of just doing some fairly typical, fairly weird things. And while it's okay, this is why this is not my favorite type of movie. I mean, it's okay. I'd really been enjoying it up to this point, but here I'm just like, okay, it is what it is. But at the same time, it also seems like it's ending very easily. So you realize here they try to give you a plot twist coming up. I think you can almost see it coming, because it's just it's way too easy. Yeah, there are a couple of, like I said, people kind of get attacked by this unseen force, but nobody gets killed. And it just seems too easy to end it, and you can kind of immediately see that something is up, something else is coming. Once everyone leaves, Pete is back home, and then we get a scene where Pete ends up seeing Doris, the girl that had her mouth shut. Suddenly he sees her, and then he becomes possessed and is killed. Again, another decent scene here, but like I said, you realize right prior to this scene that there's still more to this and that something else is coming. Once Pete gets killed, Lane goes back to visit Paulina, because she's like, okay, we did what you said to do. This didn't work. What's going on? And we find out that Paulina has lied to Lane, that Paulina and Doris were kind of in an allegiance here together, that Doris is actually the evil entity. The mother was actually trying to save Lane and her friends from cutting these stitches and allowing Doris to continue to do her thing. And now, Lane has pretty much just unleashed her. Paulina seems to really freak out and get kind of crazy here. And of course, people come in and restrain her, and Lane leaves. Lane ends up talking to her grandmother about what's going on. Her grandmother tells her that to put a stop to this, she's going to have to destroy the body and the board. So the group goes back to the house again to try to do this. So now we've got just pretty much Lane, Trevor, and Sarah. They go back to the house. There's a scene where we find out that the spirit has somehow tricked Trevor into coming there. It was actually just Lane and Sarah that were going, but Trevor ends up showing up, and then the spirit attacks him. Doris attacks him, and he ends up getting drowned in this pool outside Debbie's house. Inside the house, Lane and Sarah see Trevor's ghost. Doris is able to capture Sarah and begins to start to sew her mouth shut, but Laney starts playing the Ouija board, which ends up distracting Doris. Doris then attacks Lane, and as she's beginning to possess her, Debbie's ghost appears and is able to kind of keep Doris away long enough for Lane to burn both the body and the Ouija board, and that seems to actually save the day here. We then cut back to Lane's house afterwards. She's looking through some old photos, and as she goes to her room, or turns to her bed, she finds the plank is sitting there on her bed. And then as she begins to look through it, the screen goes black and the movie is over. So we're left with the impression that still something else is happening. Again, I really enjoyed probably the first half to 3/4 of this movie, and then I just thought it got a little weaker and a little more predictable. The scene here where I was talking about, Trevor's been tricked by this ghost into coming to the house and gets drowned. The scene looks cool, but it's just like, really, how was the spirit able to trick him into coming there? That part just seems a little far-fetched to me. And the scene where Doris's ghost captures Sarah and is about to, sew her mouth shut. And then, Laney's playing the game to distract her. And then as Laney's starting to get possessed, which I actually think looks pretty good. And I think it would have been cooler had they just ended the movie right here. That probably would have cut another 10 minutes off the runtime. But I just think that would have been a better kind of a creepy ending. But instead, Debbie's ghost appears. We've gotten no indication through this whatsoever that this I think this is supposed to be like a surprise, triumphant moment where Debbie appears now to help save them. It felt cheap to me, kind of like an easy way out to end this, and I wasn't a huge fan of that. And so then, like I said, Lane is able to burn both the Doris's corpse and this board, and we think that puts an end to it. But then we leave it open again at the end. I don't know. I just think the end of the film's a little messy. Everything that was working about the film for the first half to three-fourths of it, where, like I said, it felt very creepy, felt eerie, was pacing really well. Everything was going good. I just feel like the end felt cheap and cheesy. I just was not really a huge fan of the way the movie ended. Not so much so that it took away from my enjoyment of the film. It was just kind of a little bit of a letdown because I had really been enjoying this movie, and I was like, yeah, now I remember why I really liked this. But then this ending made me realize kind of why I forgot about it as well. Again, I don't think this is a bad movie at all. It's a good movie. I'm just not a fan of the ending. Again, it's not so bad that it ruins everything for me, but it does hurt my score somewhat. So on my scale of 1 to 10, kind of trying to decide, I originally thought I might go with like a 7 because I do think this is a good movie, but that ending just brings it down a little bit more. So I'm going to say Ouija from 2014 gets a 6.5 out of 10. It's a good movie. It's a fun watch. I enjoy it, and it's a short movie. It's well paced. It's fine. Yeah, it's enjoyable. I recommend seeing it at least once. But it's not going to be something that's up there on my favorite list or that I'm going to constantly rewatch, that kind of thing. I would probably watch it again at some point down the road, not anytime soon, but I would watch it again because it's a fun movie, just falls off at the end. So that's my thoughts on Ouija. Now I want to know your thoughts. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Do you enjoy it? Do you like the ending? You don't like the ending? I want to know your thoughts about this movie. I love the comments. I love the interaction. One of the most fun things about doing this kind of thing is that interaction you get with people. So please leave me some comments and let me know what you think. I guess that's really about it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Got lots of good, fun stuff coming. So definitely hit that subscribe button for me. Hit the like button today. Leave me some comments. Share the video. Follow me on social media. I'm pretty much on everything out there. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, Letterboxd. Just search Sean's Horror Corner. You can find any of it that way. So again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things, and I will see you soon.